Thank you for joining me for another episode of Awaken and Power TV. I'm your host, Ethann Fox. Today I'm joined by Dr. Dream, Mark Peebler, and we spend a couple of hours together talking about the awakening of consciousness and frequency, and also how frequency differs from consciousness. And we talk about the idea of love and self-love and how we can increase our frequency and even increase our consciousness through different modalities and different techniques. We go further into some of the work that he's doing with his event here at the Awaken Empowered Expo. He'll be doing a 333 Tibetan Bowl Galactivation, which is a sound immersive experience, never been done before. So if you can come out to our expo this March 18th through 20th in Detroit, Michigan, to experience that for yourself, I'm sure it'll be something that will completely transform you. And he'll also be giving a 2-hour lecture at the event. That is another one that you don't want to miss. So join us for our Awaken Empowered Expo. It's our third event. We have a lot of other incredible presenters, including Laura Eisenhower, Mark Romero, Freddie Silva, Adam Apollo, and quite a few others. Michaela Sheldon will be there. So join us for this event. And so without any further delay, here's Dr. Dream. Hello, Dr. Dream. Welcome to Awaken and Power TV. It's a pleasure to have you with me. And I haven't actually had you on the show before, although you were on my radio broadcast quite a few years ago. And I'm looking forward to seeing you in person again for the first time since 2013 when we had you at our very first Awaken Empowered Expo. And now we're on our third one. And you're going to be joining us again for that this March 18th through the 20th. So welcome, and thank you for taking time to speak with me today.
Thank you, Ethan. I have always enjoyed my interactions with you. 2013 at the Expo was an incredible experience, and I loved everyone that I had the opportunity to meet. And so coming back this year is very exciting.
Yes, it should be an incredible event. And I want to talk more about some of the things you'll be doing there in a few minutes. But for those people who may not have listened to my radio broadcast from many years ago and who may not know your history, I'd like to start by speaking a little about what led you on your life journey to the things you're doing now. I know you weren't always in this in the field of consciousness and all the different things you're working in at this point in your life. You were once in the business world as well. So if you can share a little of your life journey from childhood and any profound transformative experiences you might have had along the way that were catalysts to the journey that you took now, then that would be a great place to start.
Absolutely. I have to laugh a little bit because if I wasn't always in the field of consciousness, I hope I wasn't spending too much time in the field of unconsciousness. That being said, I really wasn't, I mean, my experience has been so varied, but it is interesting even for me to look back on where I've come from. And I guess it's mostly looking back on the programming and conditioning that I went through. Based on that, I made a wonderful break from all of it because growing up in Omaha, Nebraska, with what I would consider to be conservative parents, I was really being groomed for business. I was that youngster that they said, you know, you're going to be able to sell ice to Eskimos. And for years, I took that as a compliment until it started to sink in, just like how ridiculous that is, even as a compliment. And I would say there were probably 2 years in my youth that I wanted to be a rabbi. And it's because I was obviously raised Jewish in Omaha, which is about as reform as you can get. But in my community, that's the person that was helping the most people. That's the person that was the most selfless. Now, fortunately for me in business, I also got the flavors, if you will, of my grandfather, Morris Jacobs, and my father, Charles Peebler. And they were very, not just focused on their entrepreneurial spirit and what it takes to to build a business, but also taking care of a lot of people. So I feel fortunate that it wasn't just hardcore business without the humanitarian side to it. But my whole life, I really considered myself a searcher. And things started to open up energetically for me when I was 12 years old and did a tour with my great aunt and great uncle and my brother through South America, and really felt opened up, or maybe blown open, at Machu Picchu. And that created an energetic where I've been drawn to sacred sites ever since. And I've traveled all over the world to sacred sites. So even in this conditioning and conservative red basket of the country, Omaha, Nebraska, which I'm tremendously grateful to have been raised there. I've lived in New York City, Southern California, Guatemala, and always really grateful for that grounding of being brought up in Omaha. But really had to go searching to find what I was looking for. My parents didn't do yoga or meditation, and they didn't do psychedelics either. So I mean, it was I was being groomed for something that really wasn't going to work for me, and so I kept searching. It led me to the jungles of the Amazon in Peru with a wonderful shaman. And it led me to intense conversations and interactions with Terence McKenna and Ralph Metzner and Jonathan Ott and Christian Ratch. And so it has been an incredible journey to get to where I am. I hope that answered the question. There's so many tangents to that, the fullness of that answer. I'm just trying to kind of fit in the time.
Yeah, no, thank you. That was really great, and I can relate to some of your business and financial focus earlier on in life. I think you were in a marketing agency, were you not?
Yeah, and so I loved being in the business world. I was an expert in the hotel business, sales and marketing in the hotel business, and was on the board of Meeting Planners International and Society of Government Meeting Planners, and all these different organizations, also on the board of the Tucson Children's Museum. But I loved the sales and marketing aspect of what I got to do. I then started a internet marketing and advertising company. It's All Good Companies in Sedona. When I sold that business, I had over 200 accounts. And but it was starting to come up empty for me. I was starting to sit in meetings with potential clients, pitching them a $50,000 or $100,000 deal, but then saying, listen, if you're not ready to address what you're really blocking energetically, then we should just stack $50,000 here on the table and burn them one by one, because that's as good as it's going to do for you if you're not willing to look at how you're blocking yourself. Well, in mainstream business, even in Sedona, that didn't go over so well. And people would rather pay $50,000 and get a result than pay $50,000 and base it on what they're going to clear out in the inner journey. And it was very telling to me, and so we live in a culture, and I saw it firsthand, where people would rather just pay you to do what needs to be done without stepping into the uncertainty, perhaps, of the deeper levels of what this experience is about.
So what was the catalyst really for you leaving that field of work? Was what made you leave that and move into this? That was quite a big leap, was it not?
It was not really that big of a leap. When I still had my company and before the birth of Dr. Dream, I was doing phone calls, inspirational, motivational phone calls for a network marketing company. And so that was sort of the beginning of my weekly radio shows. And so what happened really for me, I was living in Sedona, Arizona, and I woke up one day, I was 38 years old, I think. And I woke up literally and figuratively one day, and I said, okay, let's take a look at things. Here I am. I live in a 3,000 square foot house in Oak Creek Canyon in Sedona. I have sole custody of my daughter. I have two vehicles, one completely utilitarian and one completely fun. I was making a lot of money, more than enough money for me and for my daughter. And I could do whatever I wanted and travel and all of this. And so I woke up that day and I said, okay, so based on my conditioning and my programming, I've reached a point. And from this point on, it's just going to be piling more money on top of this situation. And then, I mean, I'm more money. I'm going to want different cars and another house and this and that. And it was just like, wow, that's not what I'm here for. I know this. But I guess there was a part of me that needed to follow through on the programming and conditioning and show myself that that was really coming up empty. And so I worked with some amazing people in Sedona. Albert Golden, and his program is called the Sedona Intensive. And it is literally a week with, 8 people working on you for a week. And it was the most intense, emotional, evolutionary process that I put myself through. And it blew the doors open. And I cleared out what I needed to clear out, and I took responsibility for every aspect of my experience, for everything that I had been experiencing from the time that I was born. I took responsibility for it. It was nobody's fault, not my parents, not society, nothing. It was all me. And it put me in a position where I felt like I was a kid in the reality-creating candy store of life. And it was just like, oh my gosh, I can literally do anything. And with that energetic comes a big challenge and a giant question. And that is, what am I to do? And so I went to Burning Man that year, and it was my, I don't know, maybe my 5th time to Burning Man. I've been 7 times altogether. And I went there with the intention of identifying how to live within my path and mission in this life. And Burning Man's a pretty crazy place, but I had spent enough time out there knowing that whatever you hold in your heart as your intention, you will receive that bar nothing during that week. And I did that week. And the download was my program, Dream the Biggest Dream, and the events and the speaking. And I went back to Arizona and I went on the speaker circuit. And after 2 events, people started calling me Dr. Dream. And so this is really, that was that pinnacle place, was just like, I had rationalized, I had a web development company, more than 200 clients. I had rationalized that I was in my path and mission because I was helping them make money and I was helping them find abundance. But it was kind of a surface rationalization. It worked at the time, but then on the deeper levels, as I began to expand even more into what is it really about, then it really opened up more. So that was when I was 38, and I'm 51 now. So I've been at this a little while.
Now you're really I know from a lot of things going on in your life right now and some of the presentations you're doing at our upcoming expo, you're at another pivotal turning point of your life. I'm sure a lot of things are changing, and maybe even your life direction is going to change for the long term. And more specifically, I want to speak about some of the things you're doing at the expo. Let's start with you're doing a 333 Tibetan Bowl Galactivation, which is an immersive sound experience. And from what I understand, that many bowls have never been in one place doing this kind of an event. So tell us a little about that. What's that like? What was the inspiration for it? And I know you've traveled to Nepal, and there's some involvement with the people there as well. So if you can share that story and tell us more about what this experience is for you and what it'll be like for the people who participate.
Absolutely. And this is like, I can hardly hold my smile back and contain my energy right now. Thank goodness for really good skin, keeping all this in. I'm just thrilled about what I'm doing right now. I had a brainstorm idea. Well, I'm considered a multiple modality holistic healing practitioner. And what that means to me is that over the years, I've gathered a whole lot of tools and modalities that have worked in my own process of expanding into who I am to be here. And my thought was always, if they work for me, they'll work for anybody. And so I became proficient in about 16 or 17 different tools and modalities, many of them in sound and vibration, and then crystals and essential oils, flower and essences. I have different lasers and Rife-based frequency devices. It's kind of, it's just across the board. And so, and part of that has been crystal bowls and Tibetan healing bowls. And a friend of mine came to me in November of 2014 and had established a deal with a village in Nepal. He had never been there. He bought a bowl on eBay and had such an amazing experience with this bowl and didn't know who to share it with. And so he wrote to the man from Nepal that had sold him the bowl on eBay. And he shared from his heart the experience. And the man in Kathmandu, they went back and forth, and he said, would you like to sell our bowls? And he said, well, I would love to, but I don't have the money to buy them. And he said, we can get you the bowls, and as you sell them, you can pay them. You can pay us for them. And he had never done anything like this. And so he sent Eric maybe 30 bowls, and Eric started moving the bowls. The next shipment of 100 bowls came to me. And it's amazing. It's amazing to be sitting with 100 bowls all at one time. And so we started touring with the bowls, and Eric and I were touring together on the Tour of Love, my website, touroflove.com. And we were in Ashland, Oregon, when we heard about the earthquake. We found that our village, the Gelung village, was 30 kilometers from the epicenter of the earthquake. No communication in and out of Nepal. We couldn't get a hold of anyone. And for days, we were holding space for the best, but our hearts and minds couldn't help but be dragged into some of that fear-based thinking. After several days, we heard from our contact people from the village, and there are 100 families in the village, 100 homes. All 100 homes were destroyed. 30 of those families make our bowls, and but nobody died. And so we made arrangements immediately to get them tents. It was the rainy season. They had no homes. And I said to Eric, I don't really think we should plan on bowls anytime soon. They have to rebuild their lives. Ethan, it was within a couple of weeks that we got word that there were several hundred bowls waiting for us. They weren't rebuilding their homes. They were doing what they do to bring in the money that was necessary for them to, get some sort of edge on top of this destruction, devastating destruction that they were experiencing. So we've continued to work with them and to assist them. Things aren't getting better in Nepal. And this is, our news in the Western world moves so quickly. And, it's like it's almost another world ago that the earthquake happened, according to most, the general public, because now we're on to the elections and all the stuff that's being laid out for us to devour on a silver platter by the media conglomerates. But what's really happening in Nepal is they just went from 13 hours a day of no electricity to 18 hours a day of no electricity. Okay, things are not getting better. Our bowls that are coming to us have to go through Mumbai, India. 3 days it takes our point person to get them there because there's not enough jet fuel in Kathmandu. So it's like amazing odds that we're doing all of this. And so in January of this year, I was receiving a shipment of 300 bowls. And I thought, oh, this is perfect. I have an event at the Temple of Light in Irvine, California. We'll do a 300 bowl experience. Now, it wasn't very strategic on my part, and I have to laugh about it because once we did the experience that night, we didn't have 300 bowls anymore because people purchased the bowls. To do another 300 bowl experience, I probably could have gotten just as much excitement out of doing a 100 bowl experience, because when you get right down to it, who's even had a 100 bowl experience? I've only met a few people who have had 30 bowl experiences. That's the most so far until they met me. So we did the 300 bowl experience in Irvine that night. We had a sold out audience, over 100 people there. A third of the people chose to get a bowl and take it home. That helps the villages and these families like that. That money get sent to them immediately. Each evening after our events, we dole out the money to Nepal. And I got to tell you, with all the money that the nonprofits hold back and everything, you know, you get yourself a Tibetan healing bowl and help, you know, the village. It's pretty amazing. And so it's a sacred economic agreement with them. Literally, I've had to send my strategic plan for the next year and a half to 2 different villages in Nepal. We've outgrown the one village, so now our bowls are coming from a second village, a much larger village. We have 1,500 people that I'm supporting right now with this last order of bowls. 1,500 from 2 villages. And here's the bottom line with it. I don't have the money to buy. I've got 680 bowls on their way to Detroit. They're being sent directly to Detroit. I don't have the into 6 figures that it costs for that order. I have paid $6,000 shipping, and they're sending the bowls. If the village was able to sell 1,000 kilos on their own for cash, they would. What we're doing is we are fulfilling a need for everybody. It's helping me stay on tour and anchor energies all over the country and affect people's lives. That's my mission and my purpose here. It's helping the villagers build their lives back up. It's supporting, I mean, the metals man in Mumbai, India had to approve my plan because we needed a $10,000 loan in metals from him. I've never been to Nepal. I've never been to India. I've traveled all over the world. Those are 2 places I've not been to. This is all based on a heart connection, a faith, a belief, and a knowing in the true nature of us as humans. They've never done a deal like this before. And it's pushing the envelope for all of us. And I can't tell you what it has really taken to do this. Now, we've bypassed the, well, we'll pay you as the bowls sell. And in the last month, I've borrowed $20,000 to make sure that the villagers, that the 1,500 people that have agreed to this deal, that they're still able to eat. I get that they're not getting paid for all their labor, but they need to eat. And so I've literally borrowed $16,000 last week and $4,000 4 weeks before that to make this happen. And so the tour is here to support all these efforts, to support the village. We're looking at what it takes to get a medical center set up for them, to do a community center in the larger village, and really to put ourselves out there and to help them more than just providing an outlet for the bowls. But no matter how you look at this, when I take and hold one of these bowls, I know the people energetically that have been a part of this. And everybody that's been a part of making this bowl is cheering for the success of the Tour of Love and for getting their village's name out there and soliciting help and energy to be focused on what it's about for them and what they're doing. And I couldn't be more pleased to have found myself in this position. We're busting paradigms here. And so the very first one is you have to have money to make money. And we say, forget that. That's out the window. That's old paradigm. New paradigm is find ways to create win-win situations across the board. Okay, this situation I found myself in, this is the exception right now. I'll give you that. But it's on the way to being not so much the exception. And this is how we work together as one people. As humanity, not as people that are so dedicated to their particular country and their particular religion and their particular lineage, okay? We've risen above that, and we're all committed and dedicated to being human and helping other humans reach their greatest potential. I'm beside myself to be playing this role.
Well, that's an incredible story. It sounds like you're starting really more of a movement than just creating an immersive experience. And I think people who come to events like ours, it's important for them to hear that story, because not knowing that, they may think all that they're having is just a self-transformational sound immersive experience. So thank you for sharing that, and I'm sure you'll probably share that with us at the event as well.
Absolutely.
But tell me about, for the people who have been to these events in the past and who are coming to ours, and you haven't actually had 333 bowls in one place, from what I understand. What's that like for the people who attend the event, and what kind of things can they expect to get out of it?
Okay, so we have never done a 333 bowl experience. We did the 300 bowl experience in Irvine, and people were blown away. It was our first time. We needed 19 angels. It's Dr. Dream and his band of angels, 19 of them to facilitate that experience that evening. We each had 15 bowls in front of us. The audience was blown away. The comments that were made were about the wild expansiveness of the experience, about what they felt from a heart space. I've had people comment just being in the presence of the bowls, they feel their energy shift before a sound is even made. And of course that makes sense, because the bowls carry that energy of the people that made them, of the people that are cheering for those bowls, of the medals man in Mumbai. It's all of that energy is in the bowls. And so what I'm having sent to Detroit is the permanent set of 333 bowls. So 333 bowls that we'll use for each of our experiences, and those won't be sold. I have an additional 580 bowls coming. So if they're meant to find a home with anyone that's coming to the experience, they'll be able to find a home with them and provide the support. It is, we go through the chakras. We combine the experience with essential oils. The bowls are literally brought around. I mean, my 19 angels are not just at their 19 stations around the periphery of the audience in the room. They're literally coming up to people and moving around the audience. And so when we go into a particular chakra, like the heart chakra, there's 20 of us doing the heart chakra bowl, surrounding the audience. And so it's completely just that alone. If we just showed up with 20 bowls that were all the heart chakra bowl, nobody gets that experience. I mean, it's really, it's so unique. And I have to say that it's expanding every time. I mean, we recently we did a 144 bowl experience at the Temple of Light in Orange County. I have a monthly event there. There were 10 of us, 9 additional angels. And we've been doing, the sort of the conference call post-mortem, of what can we do better? What's the opportunity to make this even more expansive and to touch people even deeper? And so, but Detroit will be a milestone for us, because it will literally be the first experience with the permanent set of 333 bowls, the first time with 333 bowls, and we're going to be in a beautiful venue space with people that are gathering for an entire weekend, and they're gathering there because this event, okay, the Awaken Empowered Expo, is a game changer. It's a life changer. So for me, Ethan, the opportunity that you're giving me to do this experience, to facilitate this experience prior to a weekend that has the potential, if people allow it, free will universe, if people allow it, it has the potential to completely open them up and change their lives. And that's why I couldn't be more thrilled to be part of an event than I am to be part of the Awaken Empowered Expo.
Well, thank you. We're looking forward to experiencing that. And of course, there are a number of eclipses that are happening in March that should be very significant in terms of the awakening of consciousness. So the timing of doing this event at that time is really, really important. Now, you're also giving a lecture, a 2-hour lecture there as well. Can you talk a little about that and what kind of things you're going to cover there?
Yes, I just want to make sure I have the title right. My lecture is titled Bringing Grace and Ease to This Human Experience. And here's what I'm about. I stopped myself from going out on the speaker circuit for a little bit because I felt a little bit small, next to Wayne Dyer and Dan Millman and Dr. Brian Weiss and Sonia Choquette, the people that had a huge impact on me. And then I got to meet them all at an event, and I got direct interaction with each of the people I just mentioned. And it reminded me that I have the codes that I carry and the gifts that I carry of who I am and what I'm about. And that's all I need to share. I'm never going to be able to quote 1,000 different authors like Wayne Dyer used to be able to, or anything like that. But so my talk is really about, from a practical standpoint, what does it take to hold a high frequency? What does it take to be in a comfortable expansion in this human experience as we're shattering old paradigms and creating new ones? And everything that I speak about, everything that my talk is about, is directly related to my experience and what I've learned in my own life. And it's raw, and it's real, and it's the transparency of who I am. And so it's exciting. The presentation is experiential. There'll be some different modalities there. You can guarantee that you'll walk away having some oil on you. And because I want people to feel what I invite people to feel, what I feel, what has shifted my life, what makes it possible. Not even easy, but what makes it possible to get through a challenging day in my world. And look at what I'm doing here. You know, the next 2 years on tour with 333 bowls, 2 events a week. What does it take to manifest that? What kind of energy do you hold, and what perspective do we own that allows these things to come about? And it comes from a very real perspective. You know, there's no secret here to be unlocked. Just show up and listen.
That's going to be incredible. And I have seen your presentation from the first expo, and you're a very powerful speaker. So I'm sure even the topic alone won't be the energy of your presentation will be a part of what people are getting out of the presentation. So let's talk about the idea of frequency and consciousness. Those words are thrown around a lot in the various alternative movements, and I think to some extent people may have a misunderstanding or not real clarity about what that means. And being somebody who's focused so much of your attention in that area, in not only the research but also applying different techniques to raise frequency and consciousness, can you give us a definition or an understanding of what is frequency? How does that relate to consciousness? Are they the same thing? Anything you can offer that would give some clarity to that understanding?
Absolutely. There are 2 studies that I quote extensively in my presentations that speak of the physical aspects of frequency, and the other has to do with I guess you could say, the resonance or the frequency of consciousness. And the first is having to do with a study that Bruce Taino did back in the 80s in conjunction with Johns Hopkins University, that they had a device that could tell the frequency of the body, of different foods, and then also of essential oils. And so I love this study because it points out beautifully how frequency really works and why it's important. So I'll give you just a real quick rundown. It starts out that the average body frequency is between 62 and 68. It's just a scale, so it's between 62 and 68. When our body frequency drops down to 58, we're susceptible to flu symptoms. 57, cold symptoms. 55, Candida. 52, Epstein-Barr. 42 is the frequency of cancer in the body. And at 25, our body starts to die. So when our frequency hits 25, our body starts to die. So if you weren't sold on frequency being important 25 seconds ago, now that I've just let you know that when your frequency hits a certain level, you begin to die, it may take on a little more importance for you. It did for me. And also in my life, I'm here to be a beacon of love everywhere I go. And I need access to all of the energy that I can access to do that. And I don't have time to be dealing with cold symptoms, flu symptoms, let alone anything less than that. And so this study then points out, well, what can you do? And the bottom line is essential oils range in frequency from 52 to 320. Okay, so if I'm down in cold symptom at 58 and I throw some of my rose anointing oil on, which is heading up toward the 320 on the scale, it's going to immediately shift me. So give you an example, organic, consciously grown produce comes in at about 20, 22 on the scale. So for me, you know, I'm looking to frankincense, which comes in at 147. Rose oil comes in at 320. Peppermint comes in at 78. And so these are the studies that had me really excited and keeps me throwing essential oils on myself all the time. Before we did the interview, it was the rose frequency 45 minutes before we started this, and right before we started, frankincense. I didn't want the rose too early because I'm a little bit emotional these days, and I didn't want it to open up the floodgates or anything. And the other study was done by David Hawkins, and is really well related in his book, Power versus Force. But he does a map of the scale of human consciousness. And the tipping point, it goes from 0 to 1,000, with 1,000 being the highest consciousness attainable in this embodied human experience. And the tipping point is 200. That's where we move from force to being in our power. We're not forcing things, we're being in our power. And his book is fascinating on this, but it points out in no uncertain terms that one person makes a difference. And they do it with, we're all a beacon of energy. No matter where we go, we walk into a room, we bring all of our stuff with it. And that alone has me being even more focused on the energy that I carry to events like yours and to everything that I do. Okay, I have a responsibility being on the speaker circuit and identifying this as my life path and my mission at this time. I have a responsibility to every being that I come into contact with. And my responsibility is to raise their frequency. It's easy to help someone drop their frequency. It's a little bit harder to just keep things at an even plateau, and it takes more effort to raise people's frequency. But the bottom line is that it's powerful and that it's possible and that we can do this. And so I'm just very aware of the energy that I carry. And I now start off all my talks explaining exactly where I'm at in my life and what I'm going through and what my most recent lessons have been. And I kind of would love for everyone when they meet me to say, hey, Dr. Dream, here's what's going on with me. Here's what I'm dealing with. I'm giving up a lot of my power right now and I'm addressing that and blah, whatever it is. And so I'm starting all my talks these days by saying, here's what I'm doing. Laura and I released a ton of stuff at the dump in Ventura recently. Over 8,000 pounds of our life we gave away or got rid of. And that became an energetic code that I was carrying into all of my events, okay? Knowing that I wasn't sacrificing anything by getting rid of all that, anything that meant anything means it in my heart. And just because I throw something physical away doesn't mean that I'm not still owning the meaning that it gave me at that time or that moment in my heart. But I put that out there so people know exactly what they're picking up on. And I've also got to believe that if I'm talking in front of a couple hundred people and they've been drawn to hear me speak, there are aspects of my transparent story, okay, which means not like, oh, here's all of my successes, but my challenges also, that are their challenges also, and they need to be shared, okay? Because we're all in this together, and more often than not, when I share things, people come up to me afterwards and say, thank you so much for talking about that, because I'm dealing with that exact same thing right now. Like energy attracts like energy, so it just makes sense for me to be an incredibly open book with everything that I'm going through, because that's what's drawing people in to hear the rest of what I have to say, I believe.
Well, let's talk a little bit more in depth about the consciousness scale. From what I understand, the majority of human beings are below 200 on the scale. Is that correct?
Yeah, the last numbers that we got were that 72% of humanity came in under 200. And that sounds kind of scary because it would have a deeply annihilating effect on our experience if it weren't for the fact that the scale is logarithmic. And so it exponentially grows with each point above 200. So I don't have the specific numbers in front of me, but I believe that it was one person who calibrates at over 600 offsets, I believe it was 12 million people below 200. And one person calibrating over 700 offsets 70 million people below 200. So we've got 28% of the population, maybe more at this point, that calibrate above 200. Certainly anyone going to watch this, anyone who's going to walk into the expo calibrates over 200. The United States as a whole calibrates at 421, which is pretty impressive. I just heard this statistic from David Hawkins recently. 421 on the map scale of human consciousness. The interesting other 200 is a pivotal point, and then 500 is a pivotal point. And 500 is when we enter into the realm of love. And so some of the greatest thinkers of humanity, Einstein, Aristotle, Freud, many of these great thinkers tapped out at about 499. Because that's all about reasoning and the rational mind and being able to really solidify it that way. But at 500, that gets surpassed by what's happening in our hearts. And so that's where we move into love. And there's not a lot of the population that goes into that zone. But fortunately for all of us, there's enough, a small enough percentage or a high enough percentage that it's doing what it needs to do for all of us. And so I could very easily test and find out where I fall on the map of the scale of human consciousness. I'm not at all interested in that, okay? I could muscle test myself and figure out what it is, but to me, I don't recommend that people go about finding out what they are on the scale. Use the scale to know that you make a difference. Use the scale to know the energy that you carry. And again, if you weren't over 200, you would never hear my words or know Dr. Dream exists. I couldn't come into your reality. It wouldn't be possible, okay? Those realities are completely exclusive of each other. But the point being that, you know, to me, knowing my number, it creates like a separateness. It creates, I'm delineating differences, and I'm not about that, okay? I only like to study because it shows us how we make a difference, and I know I make a difference. I have sort of honed how I carry my energy and what I do, and I know when I walk into a room, people feel it, okay? And Ethann, you know this better than most anyone I know, with what you do and how you do, how you work energy. I mean, that's really what it is. We're all working energy. Every conversation we have, we're working energy. Every pouty face we do, every action we take, we're working energy, okay? We're gathering energy. And so, to me, the success of humanity right now, the success of the individual being able to step into the collective and make a huge shift for all of humanity is understanding, asking, and then understanding, and then fine-tuning how the individual works their energy. Okay, I've seen it. I've seen myself. I mean, I've been all over the board in all of this, and that's how I can talk about it. I know it firsthand. And so it's fascinating when you start to play the game with all this. And I tell people, don't take anything I talk about as truth. That's crazy, okay? Use it to plant a seed. And the only way that an individual believes something as truth is by having an experience of it. Now, sometimes it can be an experience that so fills our heart that we know that it's truth, okay? Body as a barometer, if I'm constricting, that can't be truth. If I'm feeling expansion, that's speaking to me of truth. But then also giving yourself the experience. I talk about a lot about what it takes to create, attract, and manifest the life of your dreams, okay? And I'm doing that. And it's like I say, there's no secret. And if I can do it, anyone who hears me talk about it can do it also. I'm no more special than anyone I've ever met in this life experience, okay? And it takes an awful lot of courage for us to come here and be embodied as humans. And all I'm here to do is to share what has affected my life, made my life more expansive, given me a better feeling for the experience of being alive through my heart.
Well, obviously, as human beings, we have this egoic desire to quantify things, and so understanding the consciousness scale where we stand on it, I think, is something that a lot of people probably want to do. But my question, more specifically, and I understand what you're saying about defining yourself is really becoming attached to that, and that's something that is not so important. But how do we go about raising our level of consciousness on the scale? You mentioned earlier about using rose oils and whatnot, but have you ever done any actual experiments with yourself or anybody else where you used these different techniques, such as rose oil or any of the other essential oils, and noticed a measurable difference in consciousness on the scale?
Okay, so the map of human consciousness, as Hawkins describes it, is, I believe the quote that I read was that people don't shift more than 50 points in their life, in their lifetime. So based on that, and the answer directly to your question of have I done anything showing shifts in consciousness based on the scale of human consciousness? No. Have I done things showing a change in frequency based on our thoughts, based on essential oils, and really kind of measuring the auric or energetic field coming off people? Absolutely. I've done it with pendulums or dowsing rods, and you can have someone just come into a space and then say, let's see how far your energetic field extends from yourself. And now let's think a happy thought, or hold this crystal, or let me put this oil on you. Now let's see. And normally I need a really big room because you got to get pretty far from keep backing up because their field expands so much with the use of the oils and everything else. So that's it. And then just the quantifier of my own life experience, I mean, I'm around groups of people all the time. I know the energy I carry. I can see the impact that it has. I mean, this is what I do. I mean, I don't do anything else in my life but energetic experiences with groups and individuals. And so I guess I've become pretty well versed on feeling the impact of what I'm capable to do just being in my own power and working my own energy.
Now, is it possible for a person to be at a high frequency but low consciousness, though? Do you understand what I'm saying? For example, you're saying that according to David Hawkins, we don't actually move more than 50 points on the scale at most, and but you're able to use essential oils, for example, to raise the frequency of an individual. So is it possible for a person to be, for example, let's say you took somebody of a very low consciousness and you had them wear rose oil every day. Is it possible to raise their frequency and still not affect their consciousness?
I don't think you can raise frequency and not affect consciousness, but I can take rose oil into an area of very low, like under 200 on the scale of consciousness, and put rose oil on people. It will raise their frequency. The frequency as we're describing it here it is not tied to consciousness, although it's tied to our thoughts. So it's I mean, below 200 you're at survival. Okay, you're not, your experience of consciousness is about getting the food you need to eat, about how you're going to survive. And so yeah, Ethan, actually it's a fascinating fascinating question. And so in my own mind, so much is spinning around it. But yes, I would say that you can be high frequency and be in a lower place on the Hawkins scale. But that being said, I don't think you can continue to raise your frequency without it having some effect on your consciousness, because what the frequency is doing is it's calming and soothing. Okay, it's the rose frequency, as I refer to it, and we have a website, therosefrequency.com, talks about, when I talk about it, I say it smooths the edges, and we all have edges. But in doing that, it would be hard for me to believe that you can consistently work, or as I prefer to call it, play with essential oils and not shift some of those lower chakra concerns and things. So it's really not tied in hand in hand, and the frequency work is important, and someone can be holding a high frequency without doing anything with essential oils or anything else. They say that our positive thoughts can raise the frequency 15 points, and our negative thoughts can lower the frequency 12 points. I had an experience one day where I came out of a business meeting, like a real business meeting, and I had visualized this meeting and visualized where I was going to sit in the boardroom and everything, and I got there and there were different people there than I thought. They had started the meeting before I got there. Everything was off, and it was a strained meeting, to say the least. And I got out of there and I got out to my vehicle, and body as a barometer, I felt very constricted. And I'm looking around for an essential oil, and I'm blushing right now because I didn't have an essential oil on me. But it brought up a really good point for me, and that is, you don't need these tools and modalities. We are the greatest tool and modality, as it were. And so I sat there and I closed my eyes and I went through what it would have felt like to be in the presence of lavender at that moment, to just calm me and to calm my inner child, and to remind myself that everything was okay and that I did the best I could at that meeting, and that was all that I can ever do. And I went into that process with no tuning fork, I didn't have bowls, I didn't have anything. And I moved myself from a constriction into an expansion. And I just did it with my eyes closed and knowing where I wanted to go with it. So I get it. We're raised in the Western world, and it's not about spending years learning how to do something. Okay, we're products of the first world. I want it, and I want it now. And the bottom line is that while that sounds a little bit whatever, it's anything's possible. And so if anything's possible, Why does it need to be possible in a certain time frame? Why can't it be possible now? As opposed to, oh, this is going to take whatever it's going to take. But I'm not sure exactly where I was going with all that. What I do love about shifting frequencies and everything is it's immediate, you feel it, and this is the tool that we don't want to waste, and it doesn't cost you anything. You've already got it. You've got your mind. You've got the ability to set your intentions and to focus where your energy is going. You've got the ability to show up at this great expo that we're doing in Detroit, and to listen to this broadcast and the broadcasts of the other presenters and the people that you bring to light for all of us. And this is what makes a difference. And there's just too many opportunities for us to slip back into a pattern where we say, oh, I have to have this to make it work. I have to have money to be on the path of enlightenment. I have to, blah, 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 whatever our stories are. And so what's the important thing? Look at your stories, people. I'm constantly looking at my stories. And if everything I do is a way of me gathering energy, are my stories not just getting me energy, but are they giving energy? Are we creating energetic loops between us as we have interactions? I think we all know how easy it is to just energetically get energy from people. We either know it because we've gone through that process at one time or another in our lives, and I imagine we all have, okay, from the time that we were children and our parents were too busy. And so how did we get energy? We had to cry a lot. Some of us had to get hurt to get the love and attention that we needed. Some of us had to get sick to finally get our parents to stop and be present with us. Okay, this is what I mean. Everything that we do, we're working energy. And so the most important gift we can give ourselves right now is to say, am I working energy? Or as I prefer to say it, am I playing it with energy in a way that serves everybody that I'm connected to? Not just serves me to get more energy. Does it serve everybody that's included in this loop that I'm connected to? And I adjust myself accordingly, basically in each moment, okay? Because we weren't conditioned to be this way. We were conditioned to, I can't speak for everyone, but we were conditioned to go out and get what was ours, and it wasn't always keeping a good eye out for the other guy. And so I'm just a reminder of all this. Everything I talk about, Ethan, I got to believe everybody already knows everything that I talk about. And I'm just simply here to be a reminder. You asked me earlier about my sales and marketing experience, my business experience, and I've moved a long way from the sales and marketing person I used to be. But I do make one statement, and I fully own it, that my experience in sales and marketing and my experience in the matrix, in the business matrix, in the business world has served me well for what I am today. And today I'm a front man for Source. And so I've taken it and moved it into a good place.
Now, I'd like to, this is a fascinating topic, so I'd like to delve into it a little further, because I don't think a lot of people have really, and don't have a lot of the experience and knowledge you have in this area. So let's just say that, is it fair to assume that someone who's an enlightened master, obviously their consciousness is very high, maybe 600-700 or higher on the scale, but they can, depending on their moods in a particular day, be high or low in frequency. But would you say in general that their frequency is probably more often higher just simply because their consciousness is high? Is there a relationship, if your consciousness increases, that your frequency is just automatically comes along with it?
Absolutely, Ethan, and that's an excellent, excellent question. I'm very focused on my heart space. And so the things that are connected to my heart space are forgiveness, are gratitude, are just outright love for all of humanity and all that is. So did you feel that? That's positive. And so if my positive thoughts raised my frequency 15 points, then the fact that I'm focused on loving every being that I come into contact with, the fact that I'm focused on being in my heart, and sharing the love that I am, you bet it keeps my frequency high. keeps me happy, it keeps me smiling, and it keeps me on point with what it's all about. And so I don't know about, I stray from the labels of like enlightened masters and this and that. But there are people whose presence that I have been in that I absolutely feel their heart. I feel their energetic. You're very conscious about how you do that. I feel your energy when I'm on the phone with you. Right now, in this process with you, I feel you're energetic. I have no doubt that you're consciously working, playing your energy right now. Okay, that you don't leave it to just to not having an intention about your field and how you put it out there and what you allow to happen. Well, people feel that. People come up to me all the time after my events and say, "You're just pure love." And it's about as great a compliment as I can get after an event, because that's what I am. I'm a beacon of love. And if they come up and say that, then they got it. Then they open themselves up. By the way, whether they come up or not, whether they feel it or not, I'm still a beacon of love. I'm still putting that energy out there. I'm still loving every person I see. I'm still finding inspiration in every single person I perceive. It's a game I play. And the game is that if I perceive someone even 2 blocks away walking down the street, what inspires me about them? Quick, what is it? The way they're holding the hand of their partner, the way they're carrying themselves, the way they just did blank. If I'm closer to the person, proximity-wise, the way they talk, the way they, what I'm feeling. And I'm looking for inspiration. I don't know. I mean, I think I've always been a positive person, but maybe I used to look at people and judge them as I was in my own process of judging myself. Forgiven myself for all that now, and that keeps me in my heart space. But I have not met a person who doesn't inspire me on some level. And why? Because I look for it. So, self-fulfilling prophecy. So my question then, turning it around on anyone who's listening to this, is what's your self-fulfilling prophecy? What is it that you've already decided and it keeps showing up that way? And if it's comfortable, we don't need to spend much time on it. But if it's less than comfortable, we may want to address it. And this is one of the things that I have a gift to assist people with, is assisting them with what their core issues are. And is it some magic secret I've got? No, it's not. I mean, I think experience has played a big role in it, but somewhere along the way, I learned how my dog. My dog raises my frequency also. Somewhere along the way, I've learned how to hold space for people. And people feel it. I'm pretty convinced that all people really need is someone to genuinely hold space for them. Not to guide the outcome, not to create the outcome, not to tell them what to do, but just to hold loving space. And I can't tell you how often I've done that for people and nothing else. And that's been the point that allowed them their expansion in the moment.
Hey, we've talked a lot about the idea of love today. Maybe we can go a little more in depth into that. What exactly is universal love, and is it different from what human beings call love? Is there a distinction between the two?
You're just going to ask the best questions I've ever been asked in any interview, and you're going to do them in a barrage, one after another, Ethan. I love this. So love, it's been quite a journey for me into, Jake, thank you for being here for the love discussion. So it's been quite a journey for me into the realm of love. In my own life experience, I've been married 3 times. I've been engaged a couple other times, in addition to the 3 engagements that turned to marriage, and other relationships. I have never strayed from love and knowing that love is available. But it's been quite an evolutionary process for me, in that love used to be something outside of me. And so love was love was what I felt, but it was what I felt directed toward a person or something outside of me. And so when we're asking about love, and I use the term universal love a lot, because I was using unconditional love a lot, and I was traveling around the country doing unconditional love activation experiences. And one night in San Jose, California, we did an unconditional love activation experience, and it was a group. The youngest person there was in their 60s. And so it was real unique for us because we'd been playing to a lot of much younger types. And that night we were driving to San Francisco for our experience the next night. And we pulled over. One of my angels, Ilya, was traveling with me. I couldn't drive anymore. I was literally going out of my body as we were driving. And I pulled over, and it all came to this sense of love that I had broken through that night. And in that moment, Ilya and I were talking, and I couldn't believe what I was experiencing. And I said, it's not, I've surpassed the experience of unconditional love, and now I've expanded it into something bigger. And so that's when I started calling it universal love. But these expansions in love or levels of love or something like that, for me, have had everything to do with how much I'm loving myself, how much I'm accepting myself. And it was 5 years ago, I was spending a little over 5 years ago, 5.5 years ago, I was spending some time in Costa Rica with some mentors of mine, and they were taking me into my heart space. And they were giving me the experience of getting to know my inner divine masculine and my inner divine feminine. These were all words prior to that. Hadn't really no focused experience with this. And so, wow, inner divine masculine, inner divine feminine, and what does all this mean? And what I realized in my own life was that I was looking for the qualities of the inner divine feminine in every woman that I was drawn to. So I was basing my completeness on what the other party, what another person was bringing to the equation. And I will share with you, it works very well in the short term. It works very well in the short term. In the long term, it's a crash and burn scenario. You are already complete as you are. We need to find that on our own. If we base our completeness on what another one brings to us, they're going to let us down. It can be no other way.
So, in a lot of these alternative movements, and especially people who consider themselves quote unquote spiritual, we throw around the idea of love a lot, and that we need to be more loving and we need to manifest more love. And of course, there's the whole soulmate concept that's out there, which is also wrapped around the idea of love. Now, do you think that a person who's, let's say, above 400 on the consciousness scale, who is in this state of love as Hawkins describes it, do you think that they do they think about love, or is love simply just a way of being that is almost like breathing? They don't really think about whether the next breath is going to be there or not. They just simply exist in this state of love. So I guess ultimately what I'm trying to get at is, can a person think themselves or will themselves into love, or is love something that finds you when you're ready for it and you just simply exist there without consciously trying to be love?
It's a great question. And I think that well, to start off, someone that's in the 400s isn't in love yet, isn't in the on the scale of consciousness, isn't in the 500s. So they're not experiencing that. I think we also have to understand that there's not a lot of the population, well under 10%, that make it into the 500s. that are in that field. And so I, again, don't quantify any of this on the scale, because I think it becomes its own level of distraction. And so what I quantify it on is for people to look at what they're experiencing in their lives. Okay, I've got a measure of how much I love myself based on what's being reflected back to me. And I have to say that based on what's being reflected back to me in my human experience, I love myself an awful lot. I mean, I deeply love myself, because at my events and just people showing up in my life, they are so filled with love, and they are so unbridled in their sharing of love with me. I had an experience this past weekend at an event called Rose Vortex, and it was a desert party, DJs, live music, and camping, and everything. And I was going through a difficult time this past weekend. I had a $16,000 payment due to Nepal to move everything forward, and that's a lot of money. For me, that's a lot of money. I don't have the savings accounts or anything. Source provides me exactly what I need when I need it, as soon as I get out of my own way. And I have to share that there were only maybe 40 or 50 people at this event over the weekend. I was so loved and supported that I left there knowing anything was possible, and it led me to, receiving a $16,000 check written out to me. And so I allowed myself to be filled up with that energy. I think that when we focus on love and seeing love and experiencing love, and the biggest piece of this is when we focus on loving ourselves. And here's what I get, because people know me, like, I guess if my name wasn't Dr. Dream and people didn't want to call me Dr. Love, they could call me like Dr. Practical. And the reason is that okay, so here's the stuff. I say to a client, it's important for you to love yourself more. It's important for you to go into loving yourself. And what's the first question if they're really connected? How do I do that? What do I do to love myself? And I can only share what's real for me. I stop, and several times a day I put on the rose frequency essential oil on my wrists. I breathe it in 6 times, do this, so when the next person I hug gets it also. But as I'm doing that, it takes me about 30 seconds. And during that, I'm saying, I love myself this much to stop and just focus on this. And anytime I do anything for myself, I'm not talking about taking hours and meditating. I'm not talking about dropping a whole day and just doing things to nurture myself. I'm a busy guy, okay? But I take 30 seconds, 45 seconds, so many times during the day. And when I do, I remind myself and source that the reason I'm doing it is because I love myself. Okay, that makes a huge difference. Okay, I'm not the guy that's going to say, hey, you got to practice this 5 hours a day, and then one day, sometime, somewhere down the road, you're going to be good at this. No, I'm the guy that's saying, hey, you got 30 seconds? Love yourself right now. Stop. Put on essential oil. Stop. Hold your heart. Just say, I love myself so much. I'm just stopping all the other input and all the other distractions just to love myself for 15 seconds. You can do it at a stoplight. Okay, you can do it anytime, anywhere. So we get into these things with our minds, our monkey brains, where it's like, oh, love yourself. And then it's like, oh, that's too hard. How do I love myself? And it's like, oh my gosh, it's the easiest thing ever. Don't wait for someone to buy you a rose. On your way home from work, stop, pick yourself up a rose, tell yourself you love yourself, and put it on the counter when you get home and look at it for the next few days and let it trigger you into remembering how much you love yourself. We don't need to wait to be taken out by, that guy we want to take us out or to take out that girl or whatever it is. It's like, take yourself out. Love yourself. Do something really special for yourself. And people may say, oh, come on, Dr. Dream, that's selfish. And I say, you know what? If you're not loving yourself and you're not taking care of yourself, you cannot possibly do your bigger mission of what you're here to do. Okay? I give it all. I give it my all. I give to this human experience everything I have. But the only way I can do that is to love myself. The only way I can do that is to nurture myself. I'm sitting here in my 26-foot travel trailer. It's my sanctuary on wheels. It is what keeps me together. I'm in a new city every 3 or 4 days, okay? But I'm always in my home. I'm always in my space. There's crystals. There's a crystal right here, crystal pyramid coming out of the wall. There's crystals all over. I do the walls in frankincense and rose. You know, we create the space. We create our energy. We create what allows us to be the most expansive. But I look around and I look at, like, I got a thing here on the ceiling. It says, dream until your dream comes true. The word dream behind me, the word believe in front of me. I mean, I'm constantly, and I look around, I'm like, I did all this because I love myself that much. Because I'm taking care of me. Because I love it when someone else steps in to take care of me. But you know what? I'm always the one here. I'm always the one that's going to take care of me. I'm always the one that's going to love me. And what I begin to completely understand is that level of love and acceptance and nurturing that I give to myself is what Source reflects back to me in you, Ethan, and in all the people that I love and that show up in my life. And so it's an inside job. And I'm just focused on what's going on inside of me. And sometimes the outer distractions get me, and I've got to pull away and go back inside and focus on what I can impact directly. And that's what's inside me. And I have yet to shift something inside me and not have an appropriate shift in my outer experience of reality. This stuff works.
So it sounds to me like love is more a frequency than it is a consciousness, right? Because you can obviously use those environmental effects such as rose oil to raise love or to create a higher frequency and to create a state or an experience of love. Am I on the right track?
Well, I'm not sure. I mean, you're asking some of the most thought-provoking questions I've ever been asked about frequency and consciousness, and you're pushing my envelope, Ethan. And so as I think my way into it and then feel my way into it, I mean, it's, even though a person may not be in the 500s or beyond the 500s, they can still be all about love. I mean, it's, and when we talk about frequency being affected by essential oils, we know that the lower frequency oils affect the physical body, viruses, fungus, molds, things like that. The higher frequency oils affect the emotional body. So rose being the highest frequency oil absolutely affects the emotional body. I'm pretty sure I cry more these days because of all the rose oil that I'm using, that it really does keep my heart open. It keeps me in my heart. But someone doesn't have to have a correlating 500 or higher points on the consciousness scale for all that to come about. And you know, I've talked with a lot of people about this. I don't need people to understand everything the way I understand it, okay? That's not going to be the deciding point of what their evolution is about or what their ascension is about. The deciding point is going to be, are they service to self or are they service to others? Okay? Service to self is nothing that I've been talking about today. So all those times I nurture myself and take care of myself and everything like that, that's not service to self. Service to self is working energy in such a way that it doesn't matter to you, anyone else involved. All that matters to you is what you're getting out of it. So my entire life is about service to others. Everything I do is about service to others. I'm dedicated to that in this life experience. I'm taking care of myself along the way. I have to. And so, you know, I know a lot of people that are clueless about what's really happening in politics, clueless about how we're being kind of manipulated within the matrix, but they're so good-hearted people they don't need all those details. They don't need to know the past and all the Anunnaki stuff and this, that, and the other thing, okay? They're in their hearts and they're helping people, okay? And they may be religious. That doesn't knock you out of contention, you know, for being a good person in this life, okay? And so it's not always the enlightened ones that show us how enlightened they are, that have it made in this life. There's plenty of people that don't at all consciously know the bigger truths that a lot of us are experiencing, but those people are still going to be just fine because they're coming from the right place. And so, you know, we get all caught up with wanting our families and our closest people to understand about chemtrails and shadow government and why Hillary Clinton and Trump would be horrible for this country and this, that, and the other, and 9/11 being an inside job and all this stuff. But you know what? The bottom line is they don't need to get that. They don't need to know that stuff. They don't need to understand it. If they're in their hearts and they truly care about others other than just themselves, they're going to be just fine. And then those of us that are really pushing the envelope and those of us that manifested our experience here to push that envelope, wherever we are on the scale of human consciousness, we need to keep weaving our way in and out of all of these events and all these opportunities to touch people's lives and these broadcasts like yours to be that energetic touchstone for people to see. I mean, I have a lot of people say to me, listen, I can't be my authentic self, Dr. Dream. You know, people would freak out. My family would freak out. The people I work with would freak out. And you know what I say to them? I said, you're missing something here. Because if you're not your authentic self, why do you think you should have authenticity reflected back to you? No wonder you complain about so much stuff. You're not being authentic with the rest of us. And so maybe, just maybe, the person that you're most concerned about being authentic in front of, maybe, just maybe, they're waiting for you to share your authenticity because it gives them permission. And I feel that so strongly. Plus, we're holding our energy back if we're not being authentic. It's all I want from anyone that I have contact with is for them to be authentic with me.
You know, I think you brought up some interesting points there. In these alternative movements, a lot of people, especially in the alternative media, there's a tendency to believe that if we don't pay attention to what's wrong in the world and bring that out into the public so more people can pay attention to what's wrong in the world, and I use wrong in quotes there, but such as chemtrails and GMO foods and vaccines and all the 10,000 other things that are quote-unquote wrong in the world. If we don't pay attention to those things, then we can't change those things. So people need to pay attention to those things. Do you think that paying attention to those things is a good thing? And of course, I use good in quotes as well. But or do you think that we're better off just ignoring those things and instead focusing our attention toward creating a reality for ourselves that's absent of those things instead of focusing on that?
Well, Ethan, there's a trap there. And the trap is the level of distraction. And at some place, I believe that is what we're really dealing with. And so that's the fine line that we're walking. Back when the Occupy movement was in full swing and we had people occupying parks on both coasts and around the country and making their statements and everything like that, I was asked to go out and speak in Los Angeles on the steps of wherever, the council or whatever, and I turned it down. That's not the energy I'm looking to feed. My sincerest wish was that all those people, hundreds of thousands of people all over the country, all over the world, if they would take that time and that effort to focus on themselves and to go into the inner journey, which I get it, it's freaking scary, okay? Because it's more real than anything else. And it's a lot easier to go outside of us, okay? But the real change happens inside of us. Now, I also think that when we're authentic and when we live as authentic beings, that the Monsantos and these politicians and everything else, there's not going to be energy for them to feed on. When we're holding our authenticity back, I really can't. You can't expect to be presented an authentic reflection in your reality. So that's the beginning spot to start playing with. I think that if you're drawn to putting the word out there about vaccines and GMOs and Monsanto and everything like that, and that's what you're drawn to do, I think you should do it. Okay? We're all here to play different roles. If we all played the same role, it wouldn't work. People need to be awakened to what's really happening. But there's a trap there, and I have more people come to me having slipped down the slippery slope of I'm being manipulated, chemtrails, shadow government, this, that, and the other, okay? You know, and it's a very real trap. And where does it take you? It takes you out of expanding yourself and throws you deep into fear and constriction. So, in a sense, I think there's something to be said for not buying into everything that's being thrown in front of us. If you can't figure out energetically in your own field how to take chemtrails and shift it from being the lower frequency energetic that it is to a higher frequency energetic, I look at chemtrails now. I used to look at them and get pissed off. And now I look at chemtrails, I start laughing, and I say out loud, sorry, I'm too high vibe. Okay, that's how I deal with chemtrails. So I'm sure there's people that are going to say, well, Dr. Dream, that's a whole load of hooky, and that's not getting you anywhere, but, you know, as long as you feel good about it, whatever. Well, I mean, I'm creating, attracting, and manifesting my reality. The people that I have met that have been severely brought into the chemtrail drama, the people I've met that are pulling fibers out of their skin, are very fear-based. Okay, so it's not about judgment here. It's about discerning what we're holding on to. And if we realize that every single thing we do, we focus on, we own, is being added to the script that we're going to experience next, I think that would slow a lot of people down from jumping to conclusions and deciding that things are horrible or whatever it is. I mean, I have a default setting now that I had to establish as a default setting for myself. And I'll just tell you, for me, a default setting is where your energy goes when you're not focused on it. When you're not consciously choosing for your energy to go somewhere, it goes to your default setting. So the way I came across this concept of default setting is, like many people, I was having things happen in my life that I certainly wouldn't be writing into the script consciously. And I said to myself, well, wait a sec. I'm creating, manifesting, attracting my life experience. Why the heck am I experiencing this less than comfortable, whatever it is? And I realized that when I wasn't actively, consciously, from my awareness, focused on the moment, that I revert to a default setting. And my default setting, like so many others, had to do with not being worthy, and whatever else was in there. And I reset my default setting to it's all good. So whatever it was, my default setting became it's all good. Now, I did this over the course of, I don't even know how long. It must have been months. Every time something would happen, my default would say to me, it's all good. And then if I couldn't really own that about it, I had to have a second default setting, okay, a backup. And my backup was, if it's not all good, you just don't understand it yet. So I decided that if I was going to have a judgment about any aspect of this experience, it was going to be that it served me. And I hold true to that today. This I went through back in the late 80s, early 90s. But I hold true to this still to this day. I even have a credit card that says it's all good on it because it's my company name. And that's how much I took it to heart. And there are a lot of times that I go to my secondary, my backup default setting, which is looking at something and not being able to see the silver lining or to see how it's all good in that moment. And then the default is it's all good. I just don't understand it yet. And so this has been my focus in life. I have another foundation belief. We live in a safe universe. I live in a safe universe. Okay, I own that to the very core of who I am. So what happens then owning that I live in a safe universe? My experience shows up that I live in a safe universe over and over again. My daughter, if I say something, like when she was 9, she would, if I said something that didn't speak of a safe universe, Maya would say to me, "Oh, Daddy, don't be silly. You know you live in a safe universe." So from the standpoint of a parent whose child is repeating back to me that the belief that she lives in a safe universe too, well, that's worth its weight in, something better than gold, because what do? We attract whatever it is we're focused on. If we're focused on the fact that I don't live in a safe universe, Source doesn't care. Source cares so much that it's not judging what it's returning to me. It's taking my order and it's taking it for face value. Oh, Dr. Dream lives in an unsafe universe. Let's keep giving him examples of an unsafe universe. It's true in anyone's experience. And that's the fertile ground for us changing, what it is we're experiencing. It takes us back to our belief systems, which I commonly refer to as BS. And so the question becomes, are your belief systems serving you, or have they turned into BS? And if they're BS, we get to adjust it and create a belief system that we really feel serves us. So I'm not a big fan of sticking my head in the mud and pretending like things aren't happening. But I don't get caught up in the political system. I'm not going to vote in this election. I wouldn't consider it. Okay? For anybody. It's not my game. Okay? I know what I'm here to do, and I'm doing it. Now, the people that will rant and rave at me for not voting and how can I be so irresponsible to state that publicly and everything like that, it's part of my belief system. Okay? If I don't play the game, and if we all stop playing the game that we don't want to play, then the game can't continue to survive. The game can't exist. So I take myself out of it. Now, people may say that's terribly irresponsible. To me, from my perspective and in my reality, it's terribly responsible.
No, I don't vote either, actually, for similar reasons. Now, on that note, do you believe that it's even possible to change our government leadership or to create a political system that goes in the right direction simply by voting for another candidate? Or do you think that ultimately those things are influenced by the level of consciousness of a particular of the world, for example, and as the consciousness increases, we'll just naturally end up with better leaders who are of a higher consciousness and will do more positive things for the world? Is that anything having to do with the reason why you don't vote?
I think that it's going to be a combination of things. The system is broken. So for us to keep thinking that the system's going to turn out a solution that's going to work, it may turn out a solution that has an impact, but I don't believe it's going to turn out a solution that's really going to work. The system is broken. It's been compromised, and anything that's broken and has been compromised and is built on a foundation that isn't related to the truest nature of our realities will crash and burn. The stock market, our financial systems, the political system as it stands now. This is my belief around it. So yes, our consciousness will change it. What's scary right now, Ethan, is that Donald Trump is reflecting a part of the consciousness that's held by a lot of people. Okay, that's a little scary to me. All right, I've never been a big fan of Donald Trump. I'm certainly in the business world, I'm not a big fan of Donald Trump. I'm certainly not a fan of Donald Trump in politics. But I get that he's a reflection of what is being held in the mainstream. Okay, I don't need to play the game. I don't need to be for, against, or anything. I just need to hold the energy that I hold and to play my role as well as I can allow myself to know exactly what my role is right now. And that's what I'm doing. And so I mean, ultimately for me, in a sense, I've been singing to the choir. We've been really based on the West Coast, up and down the West Coast, and literally I've been singing to the choir. I've been taking this out to the people that are already ready to accept it. Okay, we're now taking this 333 bowl experience to Detroit, to St. Louis, to Indianapolis, Oklahoma City. Oklahoma City Bible Belt 3 days after Easter. It's exciting. And it's an interesting, energetic of us putting it out there. And I'm interested in like this 333 bowl thing that we even created. We created something so big that people can't, like, no matter where you're at in your level of distraction, this is going to still stop you in your tracks. Okay, this is not a small experience. And so we wanted something that could cut through. But ultimately, before the end of this year, my goal is to be on the stage of a stadium, opening up for Coldplay, Tool, one of those bands, for 15 or 20,000 unsuspecting rock and rollers that came there to see their favorite band, get them all riled up. And what they're going to get is an exquisitely choreographed, fun to watch, fun to experience, expansive sound healing that no one planned on. That's where I want to be. I want to go into the unsuspecting circles, okay, where people maybe aren't in the 300 or 400s or something, and give the experience of the energy that comes off these bowls. And really, I mean, one of the people in my group has already flown to the Dallas Cowboys Stadium. It's got the largest TV monitor of anywhere public. And they do consciousness expanding videos. And we know that he has played his videos on they took him on the tour, and he's played his videos on that huge, it's like 60 yards long by 20 or 30 yards tall. Because soon we're going to have an experience where we rent the Dallas Cowboys Stadium for 3 days at $150,000 a day. It holds 100,000 people. And we're going to do an experience in a stadium inviting tens of thousands of people with the expressed intention of opening them up, of raising the frequency. I mean, this is where we're headed with all this. And so the other day I was with 30 people in a small space, and I said, I'm really valuing these experiences because soon it's going to be 10,000 people, and I'm not going to be able to come right up to every person. And so this is just part of the dream. I mean, I wouldn't be Dr. Dream if I wasn't absolutely pushing the envelope at every single moment and with everything involved in this. And I have to say that this must be a big part of what I'm here to do because, everything was paid for me, my truck, my trailer. I pretty much kind of cashed out of all the other stuff, and I could have just floated it along. And instead I'm now owing $110,000 and supporting 1,500 people with all the stresses and pressures that come along with that, and really putting myself out there and stretching myself. And I mean, it doesn't surprise me. This is the stuff I've been talking about for the last 12 years. This is what I share with people that is possible and available. My program is called Dream the Biggest Dream. Ethan, look at me. I'm dreaming my biggest dream. And I get the challenges involved in it. I get being reduced to tears some days because it is so intense to do this. But quite honestly, I don't know what else I would do here in this embodied experience, knowing what I know, having had the experiences that I've had.
Well, that's an incredible vision you have for yourself. And so it sounds like, for example, does it make sense that as a person increases in, say, frequency or consciousness, that they are immune to these negative influences in the world? For example, can a person as we were speaking earlier about chemtrails and GMO foods and all that, can we raise our frequency to a level where we're not really affected by those lower vibrational influences in our environment?
Absolutely. 110%. There's no question of doubt in my mind about what you just stated, that we are able to do that, that it's no BS, or it's a very powerful belief system when I look up at chemtrails and say, sorry, I'm too high vibe. I mean, that's reality to me. That's real. Can I quantify it? Can I prove that? No, but I'm not here to prove anything. Okay, I'm here to be what I came here to be, and if that's an example and that helps other people, that's great. It is about our frequency. I mean, I have cancer patients that we know that cancer in the body is the body's at a frequency of 42. And I've had stage 3 and stage 4 cancer patients come to me. Most recently worked with Celeste Yarnell, who was in a Star Trek episode, and she's on the speaker circuit, and an amazing, amazing being that had stage 3 ovarian cancer. And so when I connected with her, it was frankincense oil. It was balance blend on the bottoms of the feet. It was the rose frequency. I made her an inhaler of lavender, an inhaler of peppermint, lavender to just calm her, peppermint to soothe the nausea and everything like that. And the instructions with all of these oils, and then On Guard, the immune boosting blend. And the instructions with these oils were use an oil every 15 minutes. What? Every 15 minutes? And I said, yeah, absolutely. Your frequency in the body, if you've got cancer right now, is 42. So we need to be raising your frequency. What changes your frequency? Negative thoughts change your frequency by 12 points. Positive thoughts increase it by 15 points. Well, here you are with stage 3, stage 4 cancer. Where do our thoughts go naturally? To the negative side. Okay, you're dealing with something that's incredibly challenging. Your mortality is being brought into the light. Is this the time? Is this not the time? People are telling you, I can't believe you're doing chemo and radiation. Do you know you're killing yourself? Not even thinking how stupid it is to say that to someone who's made a decision from their own experience to overlay whatever a person's personal thoughts are when someone is dealing with stage 4 cancer, stage 3 cancer, amazes me. But Celeste got that. People saying to her, how can you do this? How can you be doing radiation and chemo? It's like, are you crazy? You're saying that to someone who's made a choice for their life? What they need is our love and support. That's going to raise their frequency. So the bottom line is that we're in life and in cancer, we are given every single opportunity to sink down to the lowest common denominator. Okay, and so I'm happy to say that Celeste doesn't have cancer right now in her body. Is it because of me or what I did? No, I think she's the one. You will never hear me call myself a healer. I'm a healing practitioner. I'm a healer when I talk about me. You're a healer when you talk about you. Everybody heals themselves. Everyone is their own healer. If we go to someone, if someone comes to me and through the process they heal themselves, I didn't do the healing. I opened up a space for them to expand into being their own healer. I gave them the tools, but they have to do it. I feel very strongly about that. I guess there are people out there that can just touch you and you're healed. It goes against everything I believe, because if someone could just touch me and I'm healed, how did I grow, learn, and evolve from that? How was I empowered? And now, if this person can just touch me and I'm healed, I'm willing to give my power up to them. Well, the life experience isn't about that. So I'm not sure how I really weigh in on that one. But to me, we're all empowered to do what we need to do in our lives, to be our own healers, and to create heaven on earth or hell on earth or something in the middle. I mean, it's all available. What do you want? I know people that won't go outside if the chemtrails are being sprayed that day. Okay, I mean, does that serve them? I mean, in their belief system, it absolutely serves them. In my belief system, I mean, I don't care if there's chemtrails outside. God is everywhere. Source is embracing me. I spent an hour sitting outside yesterday here in Joshua Tree just watching the birds. Just watching the birds for an hour and was mesmerized. Okay, you know, and I got a lot going on in my life and a lot of things calling for my attention and everything else. But I guess I loved myself that much that I would sit there for an hour and just be in beauty. And you can find it anywhere, just the same way you can find the dirt and the grime anywhere. What do you want to focus on? What do you want to own? It's okay to know that there's some dirt and some grime there, but basically the experience is all about love. And if there's something each of us can do to wipe away the dirt and the grime, I tend to think that we wipe it away in our own lives, in the corners of our own consciousness, and that it gets cleared up in the outer reality. That, to me, is how it works. But I also understand that there's people that need to get out there in the outer reality, and that's part of their process to put their energy in the outside world. And hopefully at some point that allows them to come back into the inner world and the inner journey. Because to me, and it's psychedelics that got me here. I mean, I'm not a product of yoga and meditation. I'm a product of the plant teachers and shaman and Terence McKenna's heroic doses. That's what cracked open this Reformed Jew from Omaha, Nebraska. Okay, that's what it took for me to break away from all of it. And I don't have the ability or the time to, you know, take 10 hours for an experience out of my week and then a day to recover from that experience anymore. But I've had plenty of experiences over the years that opened me up to what I believe is the truer nature of reality. And those are the realms that I play in.
So it sounds like what you're saying essentially is we all create our own reality. So even if you had cancer in one moment and somebody were to touch you on the forehead and you didn't have cancer in the next moment, it's not really that person is technically doing the healing, but you're just simply accepting your own power to heal and connect with the universe, and ultimately you're healing yourself. Is that kind of what you're saying?
If you understand, I mean, if someone touches you and you just get healed, I mean, I still have a little bit of a question about how that really works, because the only reason that we have cancer is to learn why we got it. I mean, the only reason we have anything show up on the physical body is it's a messenger. When we get the message, it can go away. And I simplify it in the most basic terms, that when we sign for the UPS package, the guy doesn't stand in front of us and say, "Hey, Dr. Dream, now what are we doing today?" You know, it's like, I got the message. I signed for the package. He can leave now. I've done work with people. I got good with uterine fibroids, and I've worked with people that have, these are tumors in the uterus. And I had a woman come to me 7 or 8 years ago, and she said, I'd like some help. I have 5 tumors in my uterus. One's the size of my fist. And she said, "I'd like you to help me." I said, "What would you like me to do?" And she said, "I'd like you to help me make them smaller." I said, "Okay, I'll work with you, because you obviously believe. You have a belief system that will accommodate it." But I said, you know, if we're going to make them smaller, and we are, because we both believe we will, can we go one step further and just have them disappear? I mean, would you be okay with that? And she said, "Well, absolutely." Because what she wanted was to make them smaller so the surgery wasn't so invasive. But if she believed that, it's not much of a stretch to say, well, if we're going to make them smaller, why don't we make them disappear? Long story short, 8 or 9 sessions over 2 weeks, and we muscle tested, and they were gone. Was it the sessions that I did specifically on her? No, I won't take credit for that at all. She had belief system about the funny voodoo stuff that I do, she calls it, you know, and I appreciate that. And that's just what she calls it, joke, you know, like humorously. But she would leave my session room each night of those 8 or 9 nights, and she would go and write about what came up in the session. And I'm convinced that I could do exactly what I did for her over the phone with anybody, if they were willing and if they believed that it wasn't the right frequencies and it wasn't this and it wasn't that. I mean, it all adds to the experience. It all adds to the point of focus. of a person stepping into their power and feeling powerful because all these things are being done on them, and now they're so powerful they're going to get this out of there. But to me, it was all the writing she did, and it was all the assimilating of her life experience. And she had what I call kind of the basic stuff that most of us had in life. It was tough on us, and we didn't get all the love and attention we needed, but it wasn't the traumatic stuff that some people experience. So she had kind of the normal stuff, and all it took was for her to go back and assimilate all of that and put it into to find balance with it, to integrate it. And when she did, the uterine fibroids didn't need to be there anymore. They were fine to completely disappear. That was 7 or 8 years ago, and to this day, she hasn't had a recurrence of uterine fibroids or any of the issues. I mean, let's face it, you and I aren't women, but any woman that has 5 tumors in her uterus, whether it's that time of the month or anything else, they are in pain. They are in incredible discomfort. One of them, the size of her fist, okay, you know, she knew when those had disappeared. Everyone says, oh, do you have x-rays or MRIs or whatever? And I'm like, you know what? No, we don't. But the bottom line is, it was so bad, she had to have surgery. She had surgery booked for 3 weeks after she first called me. We did sessions for 2 weeks. She called her doctor. She canceled the surgery. The doctor was shocked that she would cancel the surgery, knowing the discomfort she must be in, except all that discomfort was gone because it was gone. So this is a reality. Is everyone going to believe it? I don't really care what everyone believes. The bottom line is 2 people believed it and 2 people made it happen. Okay? And all it takes is one person in the world to believe something, and they can create that, whatever that belief is, in their life. Are there barriers to what we can create, attract, and manifest? Absolutely there are. The barriers are mostly all in our mind, but there is a consensus reality. So consensus reality says I can't bilocate, okay? But if my mind was powerful enough to not own consensus reality, certainly I can bilocate. I know people that have bilocated. You know, it's all possible. But we have to break from whatever's telling us it's not possible to make it possible. But it's us. It's all us. And if my message encompasses, encapsulates, and ever so lovingly shares one thing, it's that it's about you, and you're going to make the difference in your life. And I invite you to step up and make that difference right away, because we need you to step up for the collective as soon as you have managed to step up in your own individual life, because there's a heck of a lot of stuff for us to do as a collective here, and we need to come together. But you can't just jump right into the collective pool without being able to swim in the individual pool. You know, and give yourself that experience of expansion, of being what you came here to be, of realizing how you work energy. These are the things that to me are the most important and change everything.
So what are some of the funny voodoo things you do in your sessions that help people to heal their various issues?
Well, I'm a multiple modality guy. So I do crystal grids on and around people. And I have a set of crystals, maybe 100 crystals that I've traveled with for years. They know me, I know them, and they tell me where they want to go on a person's body. The person's laying flat on a bed or a massage table, and then the crystals start going on, and in the hands and throat chakra and all this. And then I share with the client that metaphorically, we're on the same team in a relay race. And I'm going to run the first leg of the race for our team. And that running of that leg of the race is sharing with them the story of why the particular crystals wanted to be on the particular areas of their body. But that is effectively me handing them the baton and saying, okay, this is what they're speaking to me. Now it's you. This is all about you and your life. It's up to you to make sense of it. I pass you the baton. Takes them into the inner journey where they can then assimilate, integrate that information. So that's always an interesting one. I have a laser that I do. People don't know I'm doing it on them. It carries the algorithmic frequencies of 500 energetics, all having to do with health and wellness, including the frequency of the Old Testament which in Hawkins' work is very high on the frequency scale. And so, and people don't know that I'm doing this to them, but their bodies move and kind of jerk depending on where I'm called to do this. The different bowls, the different tuning forks, and then some other little surprises here and there. But it's all about moving energy, and it's all about giving people a real palpable experience of energy, like that kind of thing where like they feel it. It's not like, oh, I kind of felt something. It's like, oh my gosh, wow, like cut it with a knife sort of thing.
That sounds great. So it sounds like your main mission in life and the things that you're doing with the Tibetan bowls and all of your work is really to raise frequency. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, I mean, that's in a nutshell. In a nutshell, I'm a frontman for Source. In a nutshell, I'm a beacon of love. In a nutshell, I'm here to raise the frequency of everyone I come into contact with and of this planet. Now, in the process, we're supporting 1,500 people in Nepal. I've always described myself as a humanitarian. I'm out for humanity. And so at one point we had 200 ladies working for us in Guatemala making hemp products for the Body Shop back in the early 90s. And so I'm no stranger to putting together an internationally encompassing energetic. And back in the 90s, I had people saying, oh, why aren't these made in the USA? And I'm saying, oh, this is you wanting these hemp products hand crocheted, made in the USA, you with the One World bumper sticker on the back of your car, obviously just giving lip service to what it means to be one world. So people in the United States won't hand crochet at an hourly rate that you can resell the product for, because our time is worth so much money here in the United States. But in Guatemala, they were more than happy to make these products so they could actually get on the market and be sold. And if we're supporting 200 ladies in Guatemala or 15 people in Nepal, I mean, we should instead be, I mean, does it matter where the people are that we're supporting, that we're helping put food on their table, that we're helping create lives for themselves and their families? Does it matter where they are? We're all humans. And that's what it is for me, and so to me, it's kind of the tip of the iceberg right now. I mean, we're busting paradigms. I said this before. This is a new paradigm, sacred economic agreement that I'm in. If I can be in this agreement with people in Nepal, then these agreements are available anywhere in the world. And we can find these agreements, we can connect the right people, we can create the right channels for people to be able to support themselves. And we're not supporting ourselves with a product that serves no purpose. We're supporting ourselves with a product that is changing lives. Okay, the people that are getting bowls, not only did they just change something for someone in Nepal or a group of people in Nepal, but they're going to be then playing with this bowl. They're going to be giving themselves the experience of this bowl. They were drawn to the particular bowl they got for a reason. And so one woman came up to me at the end of an experience out here in Palm Desert, and she said, every time you came around with the root chakra bowl, I got all shaky. And I looked around and I said, well, most people have left. Let's sit right here. And I went and got 2 root chakra bowls. And I came over and I took one and I did it right next to her. And this, by the way, is heart and root. And so a very powerful combination, this particular bowl. But that was a root bowl that I did right next to her. And within 15 seconds, she started sobbing. Literally just started sobbing. Now, listen, I don't pay for these bowls, and I have a lot of leeway in how I work with them. And I said, I knew I would be back in a week. And I said to her, I want you to take this bowl home. I want you to have whatever experience you need to have with it. You can buy it from me, or I can get it back when I'm out here in a week. And she took it home. It moved so much energy for her. She ended up buying it. And so, just that experience, knowing that she got I'm not selling bowls. I'm helping bowls find the homes that they're to find. I'm not selling anything anymore. I'm not selling truths. I'm not selling concepts that I've learned. I don't want anyone to buy anything from me. But if what I'm offering up can be a tool and can be helpful and can assist someone in bringing changes about in their life, I'll help facilitate them getting that. But the days of me being a great salesperson, I don't need to sell anymore. It's not what it's about. It's an old paradigm energetic to sell someone something.
Will you be doing those sessions at our expo coming up?
Yeah, absolutely. Laura Eisenhower, also one of the amazing speakers that you brought together for this, and very dear to my heart, will be doing joint sessions, and we call them Dream Team Sessions, and you can go to www.dreamteamsessions.com, and we do this at all the conferences that we speak at, and it's like tag team energetics. And Laura's just an amazing being, and the codes she carries and what she's here to do, combined with the codes I carry and what I'm here to do. And literally the session is just like boom, 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 boom. And it is an incredible, incredible opportunity. And so anyone that wants one of those sessions can contact me through that site and book it early, because at every conference we sell out of those sessions. We don't have enough time to do the sessions that people ask for. So you definitely want to book that early.
Are there any other websites you want to share where if people want to get involved with your work or follow your tour schedule and Jake the Wonder Dog?
Absolutely. The main website is www.touroflove.com, and that's since January 2010, well over 370 energetic experiences in over 115 cities around the world. And that's the main site. drdream.com links off of there. Laura's sites, everything's just sort of interlinks, but go to touroflove.com. You can get tickets for the Awaken Empowered experience that we're doing at the expo for the 333 Bowl experience, and it links to tickets for the entire weekend in Detroit, and then in Oklahoma City and in St. Louis, and we're constantly adding dates, and literally I'm on the road through 2017, and pretty sure if you're in the U.S., I'm going to be coming to your city or a city near you in the next 20 months.
Well, I have one last question for you before we end our discussion today. Since you're so much immersed in the conversation about consciousness and vibration, do you really believe that we're already heading toward a future world of higher consciousness and frequency? Have we made that leap forward, or is it still a bit tentative with a lot of the quote unquote negative things happening in the world? What's your opinion on that? And regardless of what you believe on that, what gives you the confidence to believe that way?
So I'm too empowered to believe anything except where we're headed. And I've already shared with you that my default setting is it's all good. And if it's not, that I just don't understand it yet. So everything that's going on is, in my mind, from my perspective, is in divine perfection. Even the stuff that looks incredibly dicey and all of that it's all playing its role to get us to where we need to go. And all I see is an ascended experience based on, for those people that are choosing it. Not everybody's choosing that. And so, I can't imagine that people would move into an ascension process if that's not what they're actually choosing, or if the energy as they're showing up is showing that they choose something different. So the proof I have it's my body as a barometer again. I really have gotten into a place where I feel things, and I feel if it's truth, and if it's not. And so that's where I'm at. That's what works for me. To me, it's all positive, and it's all heading in the direction it needs to head in. And when you're down in the trenches, I get it. It doesn't always look good, and it doesn't always look like it is divine perfection. I so understand that. But my faith, my belief, and my inner knowing about what it means to be embodied as a human right now and what we're all doing tells me that it's all in divine perfection, and it's all happening. And then all that I'm here to do is just to play my role, and that's all I go about doing, is playing my role. And that's all I ask anyone to do. Identify what their role is and just go about playing it. So it's all good. And here's the thing, Ethan. I mean, we're going to be together in 3 weeks now, and there's an amazing lineup of people. You and your team, and Freddie Silva, and of course Laura Eisenhower, and Mark Romero. I don't have the rest of the list in front of me, but like an amazing group of people. I'd be hard pressed to say, when these kinds of events are coming about and they're happening, that that there's anything going on that takes away from that. I think we're all this energy is being felt. It's all being put out there, and it's all, you have so consciously, and your team stepped into playing the role that you're here to play. That's what inspires me. It doesn't take very much for me to look at what we're all doing and saying, wow, we're doing this, we're creating this, we're taking this somewhere. And sure, I could look at it from the other side of the coin and say, wow, we're undermining this, we're trashing this, we're blah, 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 whatever it is, shadow government, Illuminati, whatever. But no, I see a whole lot of angels, embodied angels, stepping into their role and doing exactly what needs to be done here, and more people consciously joining those ranks every single moment.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing you again in a few weeks at our third Awaken Empowered Expo. You and Laura both, and quite a lot of other incredible people will be joining us, and not only on stage but in the audience. And I can't wait to see you in some big stadium one day with thousands of people in the audience and doing your thing, because I think that when a day like that comes, it'll be a sure sign we're heading toward a much higher consciousness, vibrational future in the collective consciousness. So thank you again for being with me today, and I'll see you very soon.
Ethan, I'll make you a deal. So on that stadium tour, the first stadium that we are booked to open up for someone, I invite you to be one of the people on the stage with us. And I only say that right now, and with everything about who I am, because of everything about who you are, and your mere presence, and your mere smile, and what you do consciously with energy, and how you play energy, how you work energy in this life. It would be remiss not to have you on the stage at one of those events. So plan on it.
It would be an honor. Just let me know.
Absolutely. And I'll see you in Detroit. And anyone that's listening to this, wherever you are, Detroit's going to be a big one. And we're all coming together to love and support each other, and to open up the infinite possibilities that are available to all of us. So please, no fear of missing out on this one. All you need to do, go to the website, sign up, get your ticket. We'll see you there. I got a great big hug for you.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Awaken Empower TV with my special guest, Dr. Dream. Join us both and Laura Eisenhower and quite a few others on March 18th through 20th in Detroit, Michigan at the beautiful Westin Book Cadillac for the third Awaken Empowered Expo. It's an event you don't want to miss. It'll surely be very educational, but underneath it all, the foundation of what we're doing there is raising consciousness. So you will go away from that event changed as you go back into your life and experience a whole new dimensional experience going forward. So join us there for that, and join me next week for another episode of Awaken Empower TV, where we speak with the incredible individuals who are standing on the leading edge and changing the world.